Hi, thank you for watching us here at Tax Talk UK, where we talk about all things tax and cover other important aspects of working for yourself, running a small business. So we've been asked to talk about incorporating a limited company, but if you are already a sole trader and the transition over. So before I talk about that, if I could please ask you to take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel. That way you'll easily be able to refer back to this information if you should need to, as well as being able to find the other information that we have and a whole wide range of topics aimed at supporting you in your self-employment. If you want to be notified when we upload new information, then you should also turn on the notifications. So back then to setting up a limited company when you're already a sole trader. So we've talked in other videos about how you set up a limited company and the process that you need to go to. But we've been asked, what if I'm already working as a sole trader? How does that work? How do I transfer across? Well, the simple answer is that you can't just transfer across, because as you will remember, if you are incorporating a limited company, you are creating an entity completely separate from yourself. So as a sole trader, you and the business are the same. As a limited company, the company will be run by directors and owned by shareholders. So if it is just you and you would then be a sole director and a sole shareholder, and of course you can be both. That is no problem. And again, we're not talking about in this video the reasons why you should consider either sole trader trading style or incorporating as a limited company. We're simply talking about if you've made that decision to change your trading style, how do you go about that? So if you always remember the fundamentally important principle that by incorporating a limited company, you are creating a separate entity, then you would just then think through all of the different aspects of your business, and basically you would need to set them up anew for the limited company. So the first thing to do, and we won't go into this in too much detail because it's covered in other videos, is to simply form your limited company with Companies House. So once you've got your company formed and you've got your company name, and again in other videos we talk about the things that you need to check about the name that you use to do with making sure no other company's using it, and that you're not infringing on anyone else's intellectual property. So once you've got that company and that's incorporated, then you really need to think about the timing of when. So what day do you stop trading as a sole trader, and when do you start trading as a limited company? So that is going to be different for everybody. I would suggest that at least at a month end would be a good point, and particularly if you're using Making Tax Digital software, because you're quite literally going to be closing down one business and opening up retrading as the company. So you need to have a clear point that you say anything up until this date is me trading as a sole trader, and then on that date I cease trading as a sole trader and I start trading as a limited company. What's important to do is to not have a little bit of a sort of overlap where you start invoicing, for example, your customers or your clients from your limited company, but you're still paying out supplies from your sole trader. You literally completely stop trading as a sole trader and start trading as a company. So it's best to have a little bit of planning in advance. If you're VAT registered, you will need to deregister as a sole trader and re-register as a limited company. In some cases, you may be able to transfer this. But again, this is why let's just assume for simplicity that you need to cancel and re-register. So ideally, by the time that you start trading as your limited company, you want to have your VAT registration number and everything to hand. So if you can just sort of plan at least a few weeks in advance, give yourself a little bit of time to go through and get everything set up. So you then need to think of what are the taxes that you are registered for. So if you're an employer or you're working through the CIS scheme, again, that will need to be re-registered in the company, and you will also need to deregister the sole trader. So HMRC won't automatically when you register as an employer for example for your limited company, they won't automatically think, oh well, they've registered as a limited company, so they won't need it the employer account for the sole trader. You will need to cancel that down, and again we cover the specifics of that in different guidance. So again, if you are a CIS working under the CIS construction industry scheme, then whether you're a contractor or a subcontractor, you will need to re-register that for the company. And if you have growth status for CIS as a CIS subcontractor, you literally need to think, I'm stopping this business and I'm starting this company, and on that date that you choose, everything then needs to be done. And because that company is a separate entity, all of the things that you've got set up for yourself as a sole trader will no longer be relevant to that company. Because the company is a separate entity, it will need to have its own. So you're thinking through the taxes, thinking what taxes that you're registered for. So you're thinking about VAT, employer, CIS, all of those taxes. In terms of doing your self-assessment tax return, of course you will have you will be liable for the tax on your profits as a sole trader up until the point that you stop trading. So on the tax, unless you actually make the transfer across at the end of a tax year, if it's mid-tax year, then you will put both sources of income, and you will need to let HMRC know on that last tax return that you have stopped trading as a sole trader, because of course then you'll no longer be liable for your class 2 national insurance. So it's important that you do let HMRC know that, and then you will also need to let them know that you're now a director and or shareholder, depending on the setup of your new company. So then we need to think, so we've thought through the taxes that we're already operating under, and then so as I mentioned, the things like your VAT, your PAYE, your CIS, you're simply closing those schemes and reapplying for them in the company name. Income tax and corporation tax are obviously slightly different, because the limited company is not liable for income tax, and the sole trader is not liable for corporation tax. So those you are in those cases switching to a different system. And we do cover in the setting up a limited company about the corporation tax, so I won't repeat that here. So that's taxes. So think of all your different contact with HMRC to make sure that you don't miss any taxes, because as I mentioned, it's great to have a little bit of a lead time before, so you can get everything everything in place. And we've got a video that talks about how to register for VAT, deregister. So all of those, again, I'm not going to go through in specifics beyond saying that, you know, that's something that you need to do because that's covered elsewhere and it won't be applicable to everybody. So then we need to think about other things. So we need to think about the bank account. So again, as a sole trader, you will have a maybe a business bank account. Some people may even still be using a personal bank account, but in any case, the company will need to have its own bank account. So this can get once you've made that transition, this can get a little bit confusing in the overlap because, of course, the date you stop trading as a sole trader, you give your final invoice, that depending on the terms that you have, that customer may not then pay for another week. But so it's important to actually think about whose income is that, whose expense is it, because it works the same way if you're paying out your bills, whose expense is that? Is this income for the sole trader trading style, or is this income for the limited company trading style? And it's really important that it goes into the correct bank account so that all the accounts match up. Of course, when you start issuing your invoices for your limited company, you will have the limited company bank account details. You will likely just send all of your customers some contact just to let them know that you have changed your bank details. Not everyone looks at the invoices, and you will also, or not looks at the bank details on the invoices, should I say. They just rely on what's automatically saved, and they may not notice the changing name. And it's also important to make sure that obviously your customers don't fall victim to scam. So it's important that you let them know on however you would normally contact them, so they know absolutely that this contact is from you and that it is you giving them new bank details. So you do need to be sort of mindful of that with your customers and make sure that you overcome any concerns that the new bank details are correct. Of course, once you start invoicing, it may be that some customers continue to pay into the old bank account, and sometimes, depending on the circumstances, you don't necessarily want to return that to the customer and then ask them to resend it to the correct bank account. So in that scenario, for the odd one, you could just transfer the money across, so it is ultimately ending up in the correct bank account. So as I mentioned, just think it's not necessarily the timing of when you get the money in or when you make the money out. It's about whose income is it? Is it the sole trader or is it the company? And the same for the expense, and make sure that that you're using the right bank account for that transaction. And of course, once everything's transferred across, you will be ultimately able to close the old bank account. So then, so we've talked about HMRC and the different taxes, and we've talked about bank account. So then you need to think of things like insurance. So again, if you have some sort of liability insurance for your business, and you're set up as a sole trader and you're going to start trading as a limited company, then remember that the new company is a separate entity, so the insurance will need to be transferred, and you should speak to your insurance provider. It may be that you have to cancel the insurance and take out new insurance, or it may be that they could transfer it across. So I would suggest that you probably want to speak to your insurers quite early on, once you've made the decision to do this, because if they are going to say to you that you have to cancel your insurance, then it could be potentially that there may be some sort of admin charge for do that. You could be sort of penalised. And if that was the case and you had time and you've planned it, then of course you could sort of time it so that the transition happened at the sort of date of renewal, so that you don't need to worry about incurring those costs. So this is why I always think as much advance notice as possible. Once you've made the decision that that's what you're going to do, don't just sort of jump in and do it. Just take the time to maybe jot down all of the different things that you need to be considering. So then, of course, then we sort of like just really we're going to be thinking about what other contracts have you got? Have you got any finance, for example? So again, that would need to be transferred across, or if it's sort of personal finance anyway, then that would obviously operate through the director's loan for the limited company. And just really think about every aspect of your business. Think, if I actually stopped doing this business and you weren't transferring to a limited company, what would I need to close down? And that's a good guide to know. Well, you will still need to close that all down, or you will at least need to contact the sort of the providers to find out their procedures for transferring across to the limited company. So you would ultimately be stopping trading as the sole trader on the date that you've decided, and starting from that time as the company. So you need to make sure that they're completely segregated, and as I say, everything is transferred across. So hopefully this is helpful, and this explains that the sort of process that you will need to be following, and the things that you'll need to be thinking about if you are a sole trader and you are transferring your trading style to a limited company. So in summary, you're completely closing down the business, and you're restarting trading as the company. Just one thing to mention on this is, if you are imminently looking to be perhaps taking a mortgage or a loan, it's important to just check with your broker the implications of changing your trading style, because if you're literally just about to change your mortgage, for example, or move house, or something like this that's going to see you needing to take a mortgage or any other lending, then what you need to remember is you are closing down as a sole trader and starting up as a limited company. So there will be no track record of the limited company. So some lenders can sort of deal with that, and they sort of take account of the fact that it's simply a change of trading style, but it can be problematic. So please do just think of if there is anything that your income is reliant upon, such as that, and again sort of factor that into the timing for the changes. So hopefully this gives you a good overview and helps you to understand what you need to do if you are currently trading as a sole trader and you want to transfer to a limited company. Thank you very much for watching, and please do remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you. Goodbye.